title here is Analyzing Discourse from Knowledge Building and Argumentation Perspective. Are these incompatible or productive? So maybe I should give a little bit of background about what knowledge building is and why did I say, incompatible or productive. But I think what Chris said this morning can serve also as a very good introduction, what she said in the beginning about, when she talked about compatibility or not. We need to look at the research problem, the context, the theoretical framework, and then, how we're going to analyze it. These are a package, and we could not, sort of look at one thing without, knowing what the other part is doing. And so I'll talk a little bit about, first of all, what is knowledge building? The way, of course, these terms, CSCL can be anything that uses a computer to mediate at least part of the interaction would be CSCL. And of course, knowledge building, knowledge creation, inquiry, people might be using these terms in, in some sense similar, but can also be rather different ways. The way that we interpret knowledge building here is as used in Marlene Scotamalia and Carl Barretta's work, where they, we were sort of inspired by that work, and then based on what they said that knowledge building, they refer to the intentional engagement of a community. So it's not just individuals working cannot be knowledge building, and so it's not just working together, but it's also intentional engagement of a community to improve on the existing knowledge. And then also what they said about what is distinctive about knowledge building is not that the people are particularly brilliant. Okay, so they take, at least the way I interpret, they take the knowledge building from, say, for example, the way the scientific community works. So a community of scientists, why are they able to create new knowledge? And the reason is not you might say these are brilliant minds, and I think probably that has something to do with it as well, but they were focusing on how these scientists work as a community. So they say that it's not in the workings of the minds of individual scientists, but the way the scientists conduct themselves as a community. And they talk about 4 very important commitments. So one commitment is that the community is committed to mutual advances in understanding. So it's a mutual advance, not just me advancing, it's us advancing. The second part is empirical testability. I might have certain ideas, but I cannot just take my idea as the correct idea. I have to test it. So everyone has to submit our ideas to empirical testability. The third one is a commitment to expanding the basis for discussion. So that means we might have certain ideas to start with, but we could bring in different ideas. So diversity of ideas. And then openness. Openness to, idea, because without openness, we cannot improve on our ideas. So it's improvability of ideas. And from these, they then developed 12 knowledge building principles as descriptions of the kind of social dynamics that would, that we should be able to find in a knowledge building community. And I'm not going to go into details, but this is just a background. So, because of this, then for them, the knowledge building is not the same as programs on thinking skills. So they can be, so of course when we talk about knowledge building, when we talk about inquiry, then because of the, so they have designed the Knowledge Forum, which is a platform which has specific features to support the discourse, in support of the 12 knowledge building principles. And there are also analysis tools that takes advantage of the platform. So there are some indicators that people in that community tend to do. Okay, so argument tends to be viewed as a belief mode activity. And so it's, so when we look at, say, for example, the published literature on, and that analyzes discourse on knowledge forum, we don't see indicators that are based on work in the area of argumentation much. So that's the kind of very broad background, okay? But then we are interested in looking at the knowledge forum discourse with also not only, but also including indicators that are sort of more used in the argumentation literature. So why are we interested in it? Is it actually in itself also already incompatible? So we need to look at, first of all, the context. So maybe I'll explain a little bit more about, how the data were collected, the context within which we've been working. So we've been working with schools in Hong Kong. In fact, working with knowledge forum and trying to integrate the ideas about knowledge, the knowledge building principles and so on. We started probably about something like 2002, 2003, and with teachers and so on. So now we've got also a network of teachers and schools, and so in all the kind of professional development discussions and so on, we've never mentioned anything about argumentation, not at all. And so we have not promoted people to so how do you argue to learn? One could, as Chris had sort of talked about, we could be arguing to learn and we could be learning to argue. We had not talked about arguing to learn, and we had not given any instruction or anything on learning to argue. So that's the context. And then, so we are taking. So what we are doing is we're taking the online. Now, of course, there can be discourse outside of the online platform, but what we are presenting in a while would not. So far, we haven't included the data that are sort of outside of the knowledge forum. So we are trying to look at whether there is evidence of arguing to learn or arguing to knowledge build, and then also to see whether this way of looking at the data appears to be profitable, or are we actually making futile efforts, doing something which is contradictory or whatever. So maybe without further ado, I will here ask my colleagues to present 3 of the studies. They are still very much work in progress, okay? They're still very much work in progress. But 3 studies in which we've actually, tried to use argumentation indicators within it and see whether that shows some additional insight to understanding the students' efforts to learn and to knowledge build. So